The Pokrovsk front has 170,000 Russian troops, over a quarter of Russia's total contingent. 12,000 soldiers are assaulting Pokrovsk, constantly trying to get into the city. Dmytro Zhmailo, military expert and co-founder and executive director of the Ukrainian Center for Security and Cooperation, stated this on Espreso TV. The raising of the Ukrainian flag in Pokrovsk is a very vivid example of a diffuse front where there is mutual penetration through positions, unlike how they fought before, in bursts, with consolidation. The Russians now ran through our positions in a large mass of live meat. Currently, the invading Russian forces are actively consolidating, especially in the southwestern outskirts of the city. Accordingly, our groups are also penetrating deep into enemy positions and trying to clear out enemy formations. I don't think the main goal was for Ukrainian soldiers to raise the flag. The main goal is to thin out the enemy's offensive positions a bit, Dmytro Zhmailo commented. According to him, information is coming in that fresh Ukrainian reserves are being pulled up to Pokrovsk from the northeastern outskirts. Currently, some of the best Ukrainian units are fighting there. Main Intelligence Directorate, Special Operations Forces, and soldiers of the newly formed assault troops. Separate units of our regular mechanized brigades are also approaching. It cannot be said that the issue of Pokrovsk has been resolved. Yes, the Russians have made some advances in the center and northern outskirts of the city. But what analysts, including Western ones, note is that Ukrainian troops are trying to counterattack. Pokrovsk remains a very, very large grey zone with fighting, where the enemy hunts our operators with FPV drones, and we are trying to clear buildings and physically push the enemy to other positions, the military expert noted. The grey zone here is full of Russian bodies. Regarding the situation in the Mirnorad agglomeration, the Russian army is much worse off there. There was an attempt by isolated enemy infantrymen to run in, and there was also an attempt at a mechanized assault, which failed because Ukrainian defenders, including paratroopers of the 79th Separate Air Assault Brigade, were stationed there. Very heavy fighting continues, and it cannot be said that the defense of Pokrovsk has been concluded. Ukrainian soldiers continue to hold on. Many experts, including Western ones, were quick to say that the issue of Pokrovsk was resolved and troops needed to be withdrawn. On this front, 170,000 enemy personnel are concentrated, which is more than a quarter of Russia's occupying contingent. 12,000 Russian soldiers are involved in the assault on Pokrovsk, constantly trying to infiltrate the city, and our soldiers are turning this meat grinder. Therefore, counter-attacking actions are linked to the infiltration of our units into the city. Fighting in urban areas gives us results, greater enemy losses. It is important to keep the Russian cockroaches in the ruins of Pokrovsk, like in a matchbox, for as long as possible. Because when the defenses of important strongholds end, the Russians break out into operational space, using their numerical superiority, and try to infiltrate further. The big problem is that Russia is losing its bio-waste, and we are losing our best warriors, Zhmailo summarized. For the first time in 25 years, we can see signs of an altered perception of reality in Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. For now, this is just a hypothesis, which will either be confirmed or refuted in the coming months. But from an information war perspective, we have a unique opportunity to rethink Putin's image both internationally and within Russia itself. Journalist and former Verkhovna Rada deputy Vadim Denisenko writes about this in his blog. The story of inviting journalists to see the encirclement of Pokrovsk and Kupiansk is essentially absurd. If you imagine a front line, it's easy to guess. Seeing encirclement in such an area is physically impossible. I'm not even talking about the combat zone in that area. In other words, Putin proposed a PR stunt that is impossible to carry out. Moreover, all the world's intelligence agencies understand that there is no entourage there. This means that either Putin is misjudging reality or his entourage is lying to him. Both options pose a serious problem for the master of the Kremlin. Unfortunately, the information campaign highlighting the signs of his possible inadequacy is currently minimal. Yet, precisely such a campaign could shift the information agenda and push Putin into a negative light, even in countries that still considered Russia a partner. Now, regarding developments. In the coming months, it will become clear whether Putin's perception of reality is truly becoming increasingly distorted. If similar episodes recur within about 6 months, signs of his inadequacy will become obvious to the Russian elite and to the elites of other countries. Historically, coups in Russia occur when someone in their inner circle begins to feel threatened in their own lives. And Putin has so far acted cautiously enough to prevent such a turn of events. At the same time, the development of the leader's image as a truly inadequate person, lied to by his closest allies, offers a unique opportunity to delegitimize Putin within the country. And I can say, for the first time in his presidential career, he has exposed himself so openly. The main thing is not to miss this opportunity. Previously, in an article for the Sunday Times, influential British commentator Mark Galeotti analyzes the decline of the 72-year-old Putin, a man who once seemed a calculating and cold politician, but has now turned into an aging dictator who has lost touch with reality. Putin remains convinced he's a genius, but the reality is different. Everyone who has ever dared to oppose him has disappeared. Some in exile, some in prison, and some in the grave. Today, only sycophants and fanatics remain around him, repeating that everything is going according to plan. The reality, however, is different. The country is bleeding in Ukraine. The economy is crumbling, and the leader himself increasingly resembles a decrepit monarch locked in his own palace.